Okay, welcome back to the Guardiane East Top 10. You probably just finished watching the Atari Top 10, which was the very first video game system slash computer I've ever owned. The next being in line is the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now, I like to go into a backstory about how these systems were introduced to me, just to give you a better idea of why I like them so much, I guess. Nintendo, the first time I ever tried Nintendo was through my friend Jesse. He was the best friend who lived across the street from me since we were like 8 years old. And his parents, I don't know if they're more richer or what, or they're just more spending with their money. They always had toys or video game systems, everything like a million years before us. Like the minute they came out, they had it. So, of course, I used to go to Jesse's house, or he used to come to my house all the time, and I'd play the system, or sorry, I'd watch him play the system. This is the way it was back then. But it was so cool for me that I didn't even care to sit there and watch him play it. I could eventually have a turn when he was bored of it. This make him sound like a total dick, but he wasn't. This is just, we were kids. We were dicks to each other, so that does sound wrong. But anyway, yeah. But maybe like 6 months after the fact or so, we got one of our own. And how that happened was my dad had told me and my brother that, this is how I remember it, and who knows if I made it up, but he told us that if we were to do well in our grades that year and both graduated, that he'd give us a surprise. And he probably would have given us a surprise anyway, but... So, it was grade 3, I remember. I did really well that year, actually the only year I really enjoyed in that school. And I came home from school. Not only did the summer start and I graduated well, I came home to a Nintendo Entertainment System sitting on the counter with 10 games or so. So I was totally blown away and like, you know, mongy kid jumping up and down and happy. I don't remember what all the 10 games were. I know there was a lot of them. You know, one of them being Mario Brothers, which I've already played a million times by then. My dad doesn't know that. Another being Rampage, Bionic Commando, Contra, and Renegade. That's it, Renegade. There was more, I think, but those are the ones I remember. Renegade sucked. I remember it being really, really hard. I even tried it again not too long ago just to confirm it was that hard, and it still was for me because I suck at games, I guess. Rampage I liked, but you know, if you ever played Rampage for NES, it's very boring. It's the same thing over and over again for like 500 levels. I swear, I think it's like 500. It's ridiculous. I remember when I was a kid, I played that game to death, and it took me like 5 hours to beat. But anyway, it's a different story. We ended up getting Bionic Commando because my brother, you know, who actually likes a challenge and enjoys harder games at that time, we both agreed that, okay, we'd go with that game. It was really hard, but I ended up beating it a few times, and without having to cheat, believe it or not, because back then I had nothing else to play. You know, we got one game. My dad got us a system, and he said out of the 10 games he got, we could buy one of them, so we got Bionic Commando. And that was just a start. I mean, now you're going to see the top 10 of all my favorite NES games that we've had over the years for that system. Now, since long gone, I have to rely on emulators, unfortunately. My brother lost all our games and our system and everything. Yes, it was his fault. If he's watching this, it's your fault. Anyway, and yeah, so sit back and we'll start with number 10. Well, number 10. Mega Man 2. Now, first I'll go into a brief description of the game. You should already know, or anyone who's watching this video should know what Mega Man is all about, but who knows? Maybe I found a one-off person who's like, what's Mega Man? Which would be really weird. But anyway, So there's not much to say in terms of describing how this game works. It's an action side-scrolling game. You play the good guy robot Mega Man, created by Dr. Light, to combat the evil Dr. Wily and his evil robots. I won't go into much of a history, except that there were 6 of these games for the NES. They all have pretty much the same story. Dr. Wily comes back again and again and again. You just don't kill the bastard. A new set of robots in each game. In this particular game, and pretty much like every other Mega Man game, you get a stage select screen. You get to pick who you want to fight first, so it's not too linear. At least you get to pick what order you want to do it in. And sometimes the order of who you fight is important because each robot has a weakness, and if you do it in the proper order, it just makes it that much easier to play. I'm not going to go into greater detail explaining how this game works, because everyone who's watching this video should know about Mega Man and how it works. So the reason I picked the game was because it was the only Mega Man game out of all 6 for the NES that I actually could enjoy. Reason being is that the difficulty wasn't so high that I had to consider cheating just to get anywhere. All the other Mega Man games, just part 1 especially, was freaking impossible. I mean, I don't know how anyone could beat that without having to cheat, but then I suck at games, so maybe that's why. But Mega Man 2, I could actually play just a few times, or a handful of times over, before I got the hang of the stage and could beat it. It wasn't that hard. Because anyone that knows me knows I'm not really one for challenge, at least not for these types of games. I don't have the patience or the time, I just get frustrated easily, and it's not worth it for me. It's not fun, unless I cheat. And for this game, back in the day, I didn't have to cheat. I could actually get through it playing fair, which was nice and fun for a change. But then if you pay attention to the gameplay in the background here, while I'm talking, I did actually cheat for this, but only because I wanted to get the footage quickly and I didn't want to spend too long trying to get through it. So there were some stages I played fairly, but when I got closer to the end, I'm like, screw this, I'm just going to cheat my way through it. Anyway, so it was nice to be able to play a game fairly. It was challenging, but not so much that I gave up, and that I remember the satisfaction of when I actually did make it to the final boss on my own, how it felt. Like, I remember the last stage of this game, it was dead silent. There was only sound of water dripping or whatever that is. And it was, to me, it was like just a creepy but cool feeling that this is it. This is the final boss coming up. I've made it. And it's so intense that they'd even put music in it. You know, I don't know what it was, but something about it just was like, oh, this is... I still got that feeling even again when I played it now, like remembering the nostalgia. Reliving that moment back in the day when I did it myself and got to that. Like, I played all this way, I survived, and now I'm on the final stage. The final boss wasn't very impressive, though. I mean, you used bubbles on him. I'm not sure how long it took me back in the day to figure that out, or if Nintendo Power told me. But when I beat it, though, it was really satisfying. And actually, for an NES game, it had a satisfying ending, because everyone knows that most NES games back in the day had a really shit ending, and you're pissed off, and you spent all that time to get congratulations, you know? So it was a really satisfying ending, too. I'm like, great game. There were other things, too, that bugged me about the game, but challenge aside, was, I'm not sure, it was one of the Dr. Wily stage where he had to use the crash weapon on these weird globe things that shoot, like, torpedoes or something at you. If you didn't kill those things in the right order, you were stuck. You were screwed. And you had to restart the entire game. And I remember how mad I was when I didn't do it right the first time. I'm like, oh no, I can't believe this. I had to restart and do this again? And I actually did that this time too, but save states, haha, saved me. So, and I cheated too. So, I had to go through that frustration again. Yay, emulators, yay, illegal. Anyway, so that's Mega Man 2. For those of you who haven't tried it yet, I mean, geez, try it already. Get an emulator, go on the Wii store thing. I don't have a Wii, I don't know if they have online stores for these games. Pick it up, give it a try. It's a really fun game, and it's worth playing even today. Number 9. Maniac Mansion. This was a very unique game for me at the time. I've never played a game like this before, and it was really cool for me, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It was also a really freaky game, too, I thought. Had a lot of moments where it just surprised or scared me, actually. Maybe because I'm just a wuss, but... So, what is Maniac Mansion? Well, as all the websites put it, pretty much, it's a parody of horror B-movies created by Lucasfilm, and originally came out for the Commodore 64, I believe, or one of the older systems. But I didn't play it until it came out on the NES. I had never heard of it prior to that. So the whole story is you are playing as Dave Miller, the main character of the story, who's out to save his girlfriend, Sandy, who is captured by the evil doctor, I don't even know if he has a name, who lives in a mansion with his family. The evil doctor is possessed by an evil meteor that landed in their property like 20 years ago. And for one reason or another, it's brainwashing him to capture teenagers to eat their brains or to get their brains. I don't know if it ever elaborates as to why, but that's the story. So you play as Dave and whatever two other characters you want to pick to try and save Sandy. And it really is important in who you pick because there's different ways to play the game, different endings, depending on who you pick. So, to sum it up, there is a guy named Sid, he's a musician, there's Michael, who's some photographer, Wendy, she's a novelist, Bernard, just some nerd who can fix things, computer geek, whatever, Razor, another type of musician, and Jeff, great name, my name's Jeff, who does absolutely nothing. It's the most useless character in the game. I don't think he has any skills other than maybe to fix a phone. That's it. He's nothing. You don't ever pick him. He's useless. And oh, by the way, the doctor's name is Dr. Fred. I just realized that. And yeah, those are the main characters. So the ones I always picked when I played was always Bernard, the nerd, and Razor. I'm not sure why. It's because I wanted the female in the group, I guess. And I used to play with those two all the time. And find the different endings you can get with them. If I were to try anyone else, it might be a combination of like Michael and Wendy, I think, but I forget what other variations there are. Look it up online. There's tons of different ways to play the game. A lot of the things that I liked about it was that it was like, again, a mystery game, and it's a comedy/horror based game, and it's one of the first games I ever played that had cutscenes in it. Like, as you're playing throughout the game, it'll interrupt your gameplay to show another cutscene. And sometimes these cutscenes interfered with what you're doing, depending where you were in the mansion, which is also freaky. Because sometimes, like, to give you an example, one of the cutscenes is the son, forget his name. And I'm not even sure if these people are monsters or not. Did I mention that before? If they're human or monsters? Because they're all blue-faced. I guess that's what makes it freaky, because what the hell are these guys? The son, who wasn't too far off compared to his dad, I guess, would once in a while have a cutscene where there'd be a ring at the doorbell. He's waiting for some mail to show up. And if you were in the wrong spot at the wrong time when that cutscene started, he'd be walking towards the door, and if you're in his path, like en route to the door, he would capture you and put you in a dungeon unless you can manage to get away on time. So you always had to be careful where you were in the house, and if you played it over and over enough, you would memorize where and where not to go. Or if you switch between characters, you make sure one was in a safe place before you switched, and not in the middle of the hallway or something, where one of the family members was sure to run into you. But that's another thing, you never knew where they were going to be and when you're going to run into them. When you first play the game, you don't know any of that. Like, I memorized now where they're going to be and when, so it's easy. But when you first play, you're like, you have no idea what to expect, and it really keeps you on your toes and you're freaked out. The example right away, and I'm going to spoil this, I guess, for anyone who's watching, if I haven't spoiled it already. When you first start the game, you find a key under the mat, you go in the house. And if you were to go to the kitchen right away, Edna, the mom, the nurse, is right there waiting. And you don't know until the last second. You just slowly walk into the kitchen, it's all quiet, and all of a sudden, bam, there she is, the music plays, she starts running after you, saying, come here, and you're like, ah! And I swear, every time I try to run away from her at that point, I've always failed. Either I panic and I screw up, or I just can't run away fast enough, and she throws you in a dungeon. And there was a lot of spots like that in the game, especially when you went upstairs to where their bedrooms were. You're like, at first didn't know that. I walk in the room and all of a sudden, it's their bedroom. Get out of here. And you think, okay, I ran out of the bedroom, but then they run out too, following you, and you have to keep running until they give up, I guess, or the game just doesn't, not that elaborate to have it scripted to keep following you until they get you. Would it be freakier if they did that? The game wasn't really scary so much as it was funny. It was only scary because you never knew when you're going to run into somebody and what was going to happen next. That was all. It wasn't scary otherwise. It was actually a really funny game, depending on how you played it. Like, I was the one who ended up making really stupid decisions and got my characters killed. One such example is there's a scene in the game where you have to empty the swimming pool, and you have to go in the pool and grab a key, and you only have so much time to do it because when you turn the pool off, it turns off the cooling system for his nuclear reactors in his house. I don't know why he has those. So if you don't turn the pool back on fast enough, the house explodes. So every time I turn the pool off, or they drain the pool, sorry, I'd always be like in a panic because the alarm's going off and you have to hurry. Even though you have plenty of time, you still feel like you have to rush. So that's not where I screwed up, though. Where I screwed up is that I would be in such a panic that I go into the pool, I grab the key, forget to get the guy out of the pool fully or something, and I'd put the water back in it, and the guy would drown in the pool. I'm like, oh, that's great. Or you can do just plain stupid stuff. Like, you can take a bottle of the pool water and put it in the microwave and cook it. Why do you want to do this? I'm not too sure. There's something to do with the stamps in the envelope, I think. But anyway, you could put it in a microwave, and when you open the door when it was finished, you would melt or die from radiation poisoning. I guess because the water was all radioactive, and I guess putting it in a microwave let out fumes that would kill you. Which was kind of amusing. And the funniest way, I think, to die in this game is that I didn't think I found out until much later, like years later, was the son had a pet hamster. You could steal the hamster whenever he left the room. You could sneak in there really quick, take his hamster and some other things, and leave. If you took his hamster, you could put that in the microwave and cook him and he'd blow up. And then to be even funnier, you could give him the remains of the hamster, and he'd be so furious he'd kill you. And that's it. You're a gravestone in the backyard. That's where you went when he died. It was hilarious. So, and actually, I think there's a way you can beat the game with just one character. I'm pretty sure. I was looking around for different endings for this game to find out how many there were, and I think there were like 7 or 8 of them. I think I'll show a whole bunch of them in a separate video after this, all the endings I could find. Or just YouTube it yourself. But again, this was the first type of game I ever played like this, where it's a mystery, it's various endings, different things you can do. It was never the same thing over and over again, really, if you pick different characters and try different things. The main ending I always seemed to get was I got Bernard, and I would there's this radio in Dr. Fred's room you could fix, and you could call the space police and inform them of the meteor, and they would come down and take the meteor away, which would in turn restore everything back to normal, and you save Sandy in the end. So that's it. Maniac Mansion. It's a horror B-style movie. Not movie, but it feels like a movie, a game. And even again today, it's still really fun or worth trying. I'm not sure if there's anywhere else you can pick it up besides the NES or an emulator. I shouldn't keep suggesting that, but it's not that easy nowadays to find these types of games. So if you can find it, play it, and let me know what you think.
Merry Christmas. Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon.